an initial attempt at this. I think we should emphasize that my guest today, the battalion commander of the Pyatnashka battalion, Akhra Avidzba, is in a combat zone, in a war zone, and technical difficulties are a daily occurrence there. But having introduced my guest, let me just put it in perspective. We are more than 500 days into a conflict that for the most of the world began in February of 2022. But for other people like our guest, this is a war that's been going on since 2014. And I think we need to bring that into perspective about the scope and scale of this conflict and the cost that has been paid by those who are fighting it. Let's just get straight to business. Sir, thank you very much for joining us. For the benefit of this audience, many of whom probably never heard of you before today, if you could provide us with a little bit of information about who you are, what the Pyatnashka battalion is, and what it is you're doing in the Donbass right now.
I greet you, Scott, and I greet all the viewers and listeners, all the audience. It is the first time that we meet online. I'm so glad that we are having this opportunity because I have long followed your thoughts and your programs because they concur with what I think and believe. In a nutshell, I must say that I'm a militia fighter and a peasant. This is my ethnicity. And this is my conscientious choice because I had a lot of temptations, and I always try to use this name when I'm online. Actually, the peasant people is an ancient one with a rich history. So I perceive this to be the only stop word that prevents me from any liberties. But I've been fighting under this nickname for 9 years. I grew up in Russia, and at a certain point of time, I had to go and help, and I moved there, starting from the summer of 2014. There were 15 of like-minded people, and we took the title of Pyatnashka, which means 15 in Russian, a group of 15, and we were in the vanguard of that fight.
Looks like we're having some momentary technical difficulties. Once again, I remind the audience that this is an interview that's taking place with a frontline commander in a war zone, and these things are to be expected. There he is. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you. And the understanding that we were turning of a reconnaissance and sabotage small group into an international brigade. We still retained the name of Pyatnashka. We are not a battalion per se. We are part of a new state. Not only did we wage a war, but we also created a lot. And our knowledge, as we believe, should go far and wide. And we helped breed athletes that raised the banner of the People's Republic of Donetsk at World Championships in mixed fight, in football, among unrecognized nations. We have raised the quality bar of our athletes very high, with the knowledge that our machine rifle would shoot within a range of 1 kilometer, but our knowledge and our track record of our athletes reaches far beyond. demonstrating the culture of our territory. So we dedicated ourselves to shaping and setting up this state that has been fighting for its own history, its own banner and language, and that was very close to our heart. And actually, when I came here, I saw an order of my nation, Abkhazia, on the bosom of one of the volunteers that participated in the hostilities there back in 1993, and I was grateful to him, and they helped breed our generation, educate our generation that succeeds them. And we are here now from all over the world, and we know quite well that the Russian world has its shield today on Donbass. And actually, had it been a peaceful track, we would have attained much more and much faster, but the collective West decided to snip us in the bud, and they bogged down in this warfare. And actually, some of the members of parliament of the State Duma are now fighting in trenches with arms in their arms, with weapons, defending their language, their territory, their motherland. And it is a crusade, actually, because Ukraine had been concealing their design that they wanted to deal a blow against the Orthodox faith, although they have several thousand parishes in Ukraine. But actually they were driving towards this. They had been preparing the terrain for that. And every time we have military huddles and meetings, we tell everybody the history of the conflict starting from the 17th century, showing the then times maps of Poles and the French that demonstrate that there was no Ukraine. It wasn't existent. It's one and the same people, one and the same Russian nation, and the collective West wanted to divide the nation in three parts, into the Russians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians. To prevent that, we have been fighting, because in the global world we are part of the Russian world. And, you know, in the United States they regard me as a Russian, not as a Abkhazian, but here I'm an Abkhazian. And Russia has been helping to prop up my vernacular language, and books come out. There are some scriptures of peoples that joined Russia 10 centuries ago, and they have been able to retain and maintain their language. And let me ask the Americans, when the United States was established, there were some loyal Indians that helped the white people, that fought against their kin and kith, and they ended up on reservations. Do they have their own states, their own entities? They are inexistent. And we're trying to explain it to the Ukrainians that they are similarly regarded as loyal Indians. And you know, we want to live on. We love our life. But without this state, not even as strongest, thickest tree can stand on. I know what the worth of the combat is. I have a family, and I wage this war for them, and I know what I'm going to tell them.
Again, just for reminding the audience that there we are, we're back. There are some technical difficulties.
I'm back. So I have an opportunity. You know, when we walk among the monuments at a cemetery after the victory, and my son is going to ask me what happened when your brothers got killed, I'll tell him I stood next to them and fought next to them. I have been wounded 2 times here. a mine 120 fell under my feet, and I caught to smithereens. The next time, an anti-tank mine exploded 1.5 meters away from me. And once again, I'm partially audio impaired now. You cannot see that, but my face is full of pieces of smithereens. And each time I wash my face, I recall that, and I know that I deserve all that I've been fighting for my motherland. The best prize for me is the smithereens that I have in my face and in my bosom. I haven't spared myself for the sake of my nation, as well as the majority of people that have been fighting here. So the Russian mentality at core is fighting on. All of us, women and children, are warriors, and the nature has always been with us. We will keep being a nation of winners. We never happened to be a nation of conquerors. Once we had to liberate Germany, although all the Europe, like France and Germany and all the rest, used their military capability against us. We liberated Europe, and Europe evolved into the European Union, and we received nothing in return, but they have been trying to partition us. Let the Russian bear lie in his hole, in his ferret. So this is the story, this is the history. Oh, we love our fatherland, we'll stand behind it, and we will fight for the benefit of our motherland. We'll sacrifice ourselves.
Look, your courage.
I
am a colonel of the Russian army. At present, prior to that, I was a volunteer. And we don't wear insignia till today. It's not because of the sharpshooters or snipers. They don't care about the insignia. But actually, we want to be like rank-and-file soldiers, all of us, like brothers in arms, not commanders of theirs. This is how things operate at Pyatnashka.
No, I appreciate that. Look, your courage is never in doubt. I don't know if the audience knows this, but you, in addition to the wounds that you obviously have wear with pride, the scars, you've been decorated as a hero of the Donetsk People's Republic. So your courage is not in question. You know, for some people who are observers of this conflict, it seems that there's two different conflicts. There's the special military operation, and we read about the fighting today in Zaporizhia. We read about Bakhmut. We read about Kupiansk and other fighting. And then there's another war that we don't talk about too much, and that's the battles in Marinka, in Avdiivka. That's where you are. That's where you've been for so many years. There's some people, you may be familiar with him, an American who lives in Donbass, Russell Texas Bentley, who's been very critical of me, saying that I am far too optimistic about the progress of the war, that this is the war is far more difficult, and that things aren't going as well as they could be. And I recognize that I live thousands of miles away, and I am not a direct observer. You, sir, are a direct observer. What's your feeling about the situation at the front today? I know you're a warrior. I know you're always optimistic, but you've been doing this for many years. Do you feel as if the conflict is moving in the right direction? Do you feel optimistic that Russia will prevail on the battlefield, that this conflict will be coming to an end sometime soon? What's your assessment?
let's explain it to the viewers what has been happening. Many people think that Russia has been waging a war against Ukraine. This is gibberish, drivel. The Russian contract army is waging a war against the Ukrainian regular army that has gone through 10 waves of mobilization. We have the regular army, the draft army, and the contract army, which used to be 70,000 people strong and 20 to 30 people more in militia. And the Ukrainian army is 500,000 strong, plus the mobilization waves. Well, the Russian army is a great army, but many have been trying to criticize it. Okay, let's approach from a different perspective. Let's look at the Russian army from the foreign perspective. Okay, if Russia has been losing the war, why is Ukraine rearming itself for the fourth time? They first of all had the Soviet legacy of arms, then they used the European warehouse weapons of the Soviet origin that were sent to Ukraine from Eastern and Western Europe, and all that was burned down and crashed. Then NATO supplies were sent to Ukraine. It also was crashed, and now they are sending regular NATO equipment to Ukraine. 23 countries have been supplying ammunition and military equipment to Ukraine, and we're destroying all that. So if Russia is defeating, why the Ukraine has been rearming for many times, and we have sufficient supplies, If we recruited 300,000 people more, we first used the obsolete weaponry to get rid of the obsolete things that were turned out in 1960s and 70s. Anyway, it grinded the NATO supplies all right, so it seems it's of high quality. Now Russia is on the assault. We have grown 10 million people of population as a result of that. If we lose 1 million people at war, the dissenters, the perished ones, anyway, we will return 30 million people back. So we are not losing. Economically, we have been advancing. The oil and gas have been rising in price, and the petrol, the gasoline also. Okay, you'll have to use less gas, less petrol, but do not deceive your own people, your own population. Russia is at ease, is good enough, feeling great, doing well. It is the only state under sanctions that sees the sanctions backlashing on the masterminds, on the authors. So our population today has been behind us, supporting us. They have been sending drones and quadricopters. This is brand new equipment that we receive. Kamikaze drones are worth thousands of dollars. All the rear guard is helping the front. We are realists at the front. We can see what has been happening. We have arranged the defense line properly, waiting for the adversary, and the adversary didn't live up to our expectations. So, with our free, spare forces and reserves, we started counterattacking, itching bite by bite our territory back. We know that we're gonna win. We're gonna win the war, no matter who helps them. We are ready for anything, even for an open conflict with NATO countries. But do you know, can you reckon a NATO country ready to engage into an open conflict with Russia? They tried it in Syria, but they started patrolling together with Russia. And prior to that, they supplied arms to ISIL. All the arms that ISIL had was from the United States, and Russia has retained the statehood. We did not exceed Syria. We did not incorporate that country. We don't want anything alien. What we want is our territory. We asked you for 30 years, stop itching towards us, stop looking at us, stop eyeing us up. When in 1940s you entered the Second World War, was it free of charge? No. We paid for everything, for all the help. Why are you telling in history course books that you did that out of a good heart? So the American that is on the ground, the one you mentioned, wants you to tell the truth. You must free it of emotion. Be impartial, and I've been watching all your videos till the end, and you are unique. You're all right. If you want to learn a truth, you reach us, and you talk to us. But no one wants you to act as a rebel rouser for your viewers. Just tell them that your taxpayers are sending the money into a stove. They think that Russia will collapse, but when we are under duress, we become stronger. It makes us stronger, and Americans will feel worse off. Back in the 90s, we caved in your business, entered our soil, and actually. Now we're pushing back, and thanks McDonald's. I'd like to thank McDonald's for leaving. We will not have fat asses. This is not our lifestyles. We love our commander-in-chief because he has made our nation stronger. He made you squeak and yelp, and you panic at his sight, and we're proud of him. You are not looking in the proper direction. The more unhealthy food outlets you withdraw, the better for us. Our pancakes are much better. We don't need your Pepsi Cola. Well, we have our own traditional conventional foods and foodstuffs.
Well, I can concur with the quality of the Russian food. I had the honor of visiting Russia recently, and I can say that your cuisine choices are definitely better than McDonald's. Let's talk about something that you mentioned. You talked about the fourth wave of rearmament of the Ukrainian army, and the current wave is, of course, the active NATO equivalent equipment, the equipment that the NATO armies actually use. Have you experienced this equipment? Are you facing against the HIMARS? Are you facing the American artillery, the Leopard tank, the Bradley?
Bradley. Just for a second, I'll leave the frame and I'll answer you. I'll answer you. I'll just want to show you something. I'll be back in a second.
It's the benefit of interviewing a frontline commander. I think he's going to probably bring up something that people sitting in the rear areas wouldn't be able to bring to illustrate his point. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. And there we go. Okay, it looks like a NATO-made medium machine gun.
Well, we have a lot more at warehouse. These are toys for us. Our arms are better, of high quality. We just give it as presents towards one another. We have a lot of that. We have German-made arms. Tilted Hitler. This is a toy, nothing else. And your cartridges burst and explode. The only advantage is the finished package of cartridges into belts, and our soldiers are always busy inserting cartridges into belts, so they have no wicked thoughts. And we have your grenades captured, trophy grenades.
Well, clearly, when you possess trophies of that nature, it shows that you're doing well on the battlefield. You were in the fighting since 2014. Today, you're part of the Russian army. You carry the rank of colonel. Has it been difficult integrating into the Russian military structure? For years, you were, I would say, probably had more independence, more latitude. Now you find yourself under a higher authority, maybe with less flexibility.
The Russian army came here, embraced us, because the People's Republic of Donetsk has become part of Russia, being reintegrated, and we have become a unit of Russian army. Well, previously we fought for the sake of a lofty idea. Today we have social guarantees, and we have more perks and bonuses. And, back in 2016, we converted our militia into an army according to Russian standards. We tried to copy that because we understood that sooner or later we would become part of the Russian army. And actually, we tried to imitate their styles and structures, and nothing has changed. We have become part of the Russian army, but now we have more social guarantees for our families. Like we have 50% discount for our house bills and utility bills, and we have vacation paid. Many people were afraid, but we only have benefited from that. And the rationing of ours at battlefield has improved dramatically, and the remunerations and our fighters can send their relatives and their family members to have rest at the seaside. So now we're much better off. And when they started threatening Russia with sanctions, we in return, as a retaliation, started developing our own manufacturing, domestic manufacturing, and people started producing things and turning them out. And you have stopped your entrepreneurs from investing into Russia, and now we are free from competition and we can seize the market. So we have been advancing, we have been active. I thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. Look, you mentioned earlier that you received drones. You have different kinds of drones that you're receiving. This is a new kind of warfare. It's something that the West is not familiar with. Look, back when I was in the Marine Corps in the 1980s, I helped invent drone warfare, but these were very slow drones, big drones used for reconnaissance purposes. Today, the drones that you use in combat are completely different than anything I had ever envisioned. Without giving away any secrets, I'm not asking you to do that, could you introduce to the audience the realities of modern drone warfare? How do you use drones? And if you can say, how are drones used against you? And how has this changed the face of war?
Well, against us, the 82nd makes of drones are used. Agrarian drones, agriculture drones with 82nd mines on top of them or at the bottom with explosives pegged to them, reconnaissance drones. Many of them, they use what they have at hand. So do we. We buy from the same manufacturer, which is China, both the Ukrainians and us. The only thing is the life cycle of these units. We are not behind. We will use twice as much equipment as they do. We have separate reconnaissance and surveillance groups, and each of the units has drones, and we have stepped up the procurement. And the demand is huge, and we also had a backlog of orders we had to satisfy. In order to preclude deficit, we had to become more agile in procurement. Well, for half a year we have been responsible for our own procurement. It's bottom up, and we have been in charge of that, and we even produced by ourselves the kamikaze drones. And the army has been using long-range drones made in Russia, but we are using shorter range. This is why we buy foreign-made ones. But we also may use the staff army drones, the listed drones on demand, if we file an application to the army. So we buy some of the devices, and we may replace cameras to install more precise ones. We actually cannot afford to have a lab of our own. We are a small unit, but we can cope all right. We have been assembling and manufacturing customized drones by ourselves. We have coped with that, and this is the case in each of the units, military units. The commanders want to ensure that their units have everything. Many people are oblivious of the essence of the conflict. They just look at the static picture. So when we triumph in that war, when we defeat the enemy, everyone will tell, "Oh, we told you Russia would win," but only you, Scott, have been saying that. And actually we remember those who have been with us since day one, siding with us. One has to have an impartial perspective. You shouldn't praise us too much, but actually look what the interest of America in that war is. Why are you involved? If your viewers believe that I will forget whose equipment the Ukrainian army used, they are misguided, mistaken. It would be a fallacy. We will not forget that. And everybody is silent about this, because all these nations have foreign services and other things. But I'm from a different circle. I'm a destroyer. I'm in the army. We destroy the enemy. If I have an opportunity to make mischief against those who supply our adversary with weapons, we will do so. We'll make this mischief. The Abkhazians are quite few in Russia. There are only 8 million Abkhazians worldwide. But this is enough for us to pursue vengeance. Thanks to my fellow countrymen, we have been able to equip our unit with combat uniforms, and we know that there are very many people like you thinking of the future of the world. And we have a lot of people worldwide sympathizing with us. So people from the United States, non-indifferent ones, helped us. We are honest people, and actually we received the first cargo from your cruiser, and we raised the flags, and we didn't sink that ship. Back then it was a militia group, not a regular army. We can reach everywhere. Our arms are strong, our arms are long. Definitely we want the world peace.
I can't think of a better sentiment to end this conversation on: world peace. It's not going to be easy to get there. I respect the fact that you are engaged in a very difficult struggle. I respect your courage, and I wish you and your fellow fighters in the Pyatnashka battalion the very best, that you can all go home to your families, and that you are, in the end, victorious, not because I'm Russian or pro-Russian, but because I study history, and I believe that you are on the right side of history. So thank you very much for joining me today. I'll be following your exploits down the road, and all I can say is I hope that this conflict comes to an end, so that the terrible work that you and your fellow fighters are doing will no longer be needed, and that you can go home to your families, and that you can live the life that you have earned with your blood and with your sacrifice. This has been a unique opportunity to meet a frontline commander of the caliber, of the courage, of the experience of Akhra Avidzba. I hope that the audience appreciates this opportunity. I certainly have, and I hope that you're tolerant of the technical difficulties we experienced. It is, after all, something else to try and do a live interview with somebody who was a frontline commander in a war zone. But remember, knowledge is power, and today I think we got an awful lot of knowledge. This is Ritter. I'll see you again next week.